Hello and welcome to another Tech Tip. My name is Seth LeBlond and I'm the Assistive Technology Coordinator at the Foundation for Blind Children. Today I want to talk about cursors. Cursors are something that we all use and we rarely ever really think about. Cursors are the movable on-screen objects we use on our computer to interact with the stationary objects that are on our screens, like controls, for example. When you type in Microsoft Word, you're using a cursor. Sometimes people call it a system caret or system cursor. I want to talk about these cursors, though, insofar as they relate to JAWS, because I don't think there's really a lot of education out there about the various cursors these days. JAWS makes use of several kinds of cursors that allow us to control our computers. The basic system cursor that we all use, that moves when we move our arrow keys, that scrolls when we scroll the screen, and that types characters when we type on the keyboard, is called the PC cursor when we're using JAWS. And most of the time, if we're not on the internet and we're not interacting with a PDF document or a PowerPoint presentation, this is the cursor that we all know and love and are using. The PC cursor is one of the most powerful cursors out there because whenever it is on a Windows control, we can then interact with and manipulate that control. The PC cursor is activated by pressing the plus key on the numeric keypad while the numlock is off. Many of you will know that the numlock can be in one of two states. That numlock key is usually that top left key on your numeric keypad. When the numlock is on, all of the keys on the keypad are numbers and calculator functions. When the numlock is off, they have secondary functions. So when the numlock is off and you press that plus key, JAWS will actually say PC cursor. Now, if the numlock is off and you press the key above it, which is the minus key, JAWS will say JAWS cursor. This is the second kind of cursor available for JAWS users. The JAWS cursor essentially gives blind users the ability to move the mouse pointer just as if it were a normal cursor on the computer. So when we activate our JAWS cursor and we have the JAWS cursor moving word by word or character by character or line by line, we're actually moving the mouse pointer word by word, character by character, or line by line. The advantage to using a JAWS cursor is that the JAWS cursor can sometimes go to areas of the screen where there are not Windows controls. So the JAWS cursor can go to more places than the PC cursor because the PC cursor is restricted to movement only inside of control areas. The third kind of cursor that I want to talk about is called the virtual PC cursor. Many JAWS users have heard this term before. If you go to any kind of HTML content, a web page is being the most common of those, and you press the plus key on the numeric keypad thinking, I'm going to activate my PC cursor now, you're wrong. If you are in HTML content and you want to press the plus key on your numeric keypad, you will activate the virtual PC cursor. The virtual PC cursor is incredibly important for web navigation because it allows us to navigate the HTML content on the web without having to switch to the JAWS cursor. There's a whole lot of content on websites that the standard PC cursor cannot go to because, as I mentioned earlier, the standard PC cursor is limited to only working inside of control areas. On the web, unless you're actually filling out a form, you're rarely on a control area. In order to be able to read content online, you have to be able to have a cursor that can move around freely outside of controls. And the virtual PC cursor is what makes this possible. When you're on the web and you're filling out a form and JAWS is in Forms mode, you're using your standard PC cursor. When you're reading web content, you're using the virtual PC cursor. The final type of cursor that I want to talk about today is called the touch cursor. The touch cursor has been available for some years now as Windows has evolved into a more touchscreen friendly environment. To activate the touch cursor, you press Shift and the numeric keypad plus key together. JAWS will say touch cursor. When you do that, you actually have a cursor that you can move from one object to the next by pressing your right arrow, or the previous object by pressing your left arrow. You can also choose other ways to navigate when you press up and down, such as by line or word or paragraph. Using the touch cursor in JAWS is a lot like using swipe gestures on iOS devices. Pressing your right arrow simply moves you to the next item. This cursor is very important for reading many dialog boxes in Windows. Although dialog boxes typically consist of controls that you can use your PC cursor to manipulate, they also sometimes contain directions or other information that are not a part of those controls. If you're in a situation like that, your best bet is to activate your touch cursor and see if you can navigate it, object by object, to the actual content that you want to be able to read. So there you have it, the 4 most important cursors that you can use with JAWS: the PC cursor, the JAWS cursor, the virtual PC cursor, and the touch cursor. I hope this has been very informative for you, and we'll see you again soon for another tech tip.